So
I do need to change the title though. Before we address the a TBM first, how do we feel about this, boys?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Fresh off the gym, son. Still in my gym clothes.
I never realized how symmetrical your tattoos were.
Clean skin.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I think this one may be a little bit deeper, but they're close for sure.
Question is, when are you gonna get those ditches filled in right there?
Nah, that shit ain't happening. No shot. Also, so tell everybody what's going on right now. This is new for us.
Are we
What
live
are we
now?
experiencing? Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So Trey decided to pull an audible and say, "Hey, yo, you want to record at your crib?" So we're 2 of 3 in the flesh right now. So we're getting there, folks.
And I'm thinking that the chemistry is going to either work really well or it's just not going to work at all after scrap the whole episode. But yeah, I'm in town. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, beautiful city. And I figured, my parents' Wi-Fi doesn't work really at all. So it'd be best to go record somewhere else. I figured where else than
Anthony's house. Very nice.
I do have humans over every now and then.
Yeah, I haven't been on this couch in a long time, and I really fuck with this couch. I've slept on it many times,
right?
But it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Well, before we get started, Anthony, I want to give everybody a PSA, okay? And Anthony, you can go ahead and chop this up, clip it, post it on the Instagram, because I want the world to hear this. To Kendrick Lamar fans, let me tell you something. Kendrick is capable of putting out an album that is just okay. And it's okay to think it's just okay. It doesn't have to be the greatest piece of music every single time he puts out an album. Some can be good, some can be great. But not every Kendrick album is a 10 out of 10 perfect work of art. It's okay to be somewhere in the middle. And as an Eminem fan, that was tough for me to admit. I pretended Revival was great for many, many years until I really looked deep within myself and realized that it wasn't. And so to all the Kendrick fans out there, I just want you to know, we're not going to judge you or hurt you or make fun of you for saying that an album is okay. So that's my PSA to you guys. I want you to feel safe in having genuine opinions. So I just wanted to start off with that. But we are reviewing.
I think that the new Kendrick Lamar album is going to move the culture in eons. I mean, I think it's the best piece of work maybe that he's ever created. So I don't know what you're talking about.
God, okay.
I actually, all things aside, I haven't fully listened to it. I've only listened to the first half of it, and I really fucking liked it. Especially, dude, Squabble Up slaps.
The production's crazy.
Yeah,
the production is very crazy.
I've never, and I'm going to get back to this when we go to Rides or Dies, but I have never had the speakers in my car hit as hard as they did on that album. With a few exceptions, but this
is when I look at you and say, I have to give you some different music to put in your car.
No, dude. I mean, it's like you got to hear this thing. It rattled my entire. I thought my car was breaking down. Like my floorboard was rattling.
The production is crazy. Thank you, Bose. Okay, so today we're reviewing the Blueprint 3 by Jay-Z, and in and of itself, which is Anthony will tell us more about that later, but the Blueprint 3 was my pick in a brief Apple Music intro. By the time the Blueprint 3 arrived in 2009, Jay-Z's relationship to rap had gotten complicated. He'd headlined rock-oriented festivals like Glastonbury and materialized at shows by Brooklyn bands like Grizzly Bear, saying he hoped indie rock might help shake up what he saw as stagnancy of hip-hop. The Blueprint 3 positions him as an elder statesman of rap, one who condemned trends, but who isn't afraid of the crossover moves that made him famous in the first place. At one point on the Blueprint 3, Jay claims he so tomorrow has watched as yesterday, but on the precipice of 40, he knows better than to worry about time. After all, plenty of rappers have excelled at the game. Jay-Z wrote the rules. So, I picked this album for a number of reasons. First off, I want to get back to my roots. When we came to a trio, I said I was gonna bring hip hop music, and that's what I'm gonna start doing more of. I feel like I strayed a little bit, brought rock albums, country albums, so we're coming back to hip hop. And also, I just thought it would lead to an interesting discussion because I know Trey probably remembers this, but when this album first came out, it was critically and commercially panned. People shit on it relentlessly. There was a lot of people that were disappointed in it. You'll see when I read the reviews from Rolling Stone and Pitchfork. Obviously, they did not look favorably upon this album, but as time has gone on and upon re-listening, I think that this album deserves more credit and more respect. And there's a lot about it that I really, really enjoy. And I think Jay-Z tried to really mix things up. So, that's kind of why I picked this. So I'm interested to hear what you guys think about it. Trey, what do you think?
I remember liking this album when I was in high school, and then I remember disliking it as time went on. So I was curious kind of where I was going to fall, because when you picked it, I was like, oh God. Because that was my last word. Dude, I really enjoyed it. I think there's definitely some of that like indie rock, specifically like he just uses a lot of guitar samples, and it's like kind of that guitar tone from like the late 2000s. But I mean, there's also some really good like boom bap tracks on here. We'll get into that with some of my Rise Rise, top 3. But yeah, I like it. I'm excited to talk about it. I don't think it's the best Blueprint, obviously. Like I think the other ones are better, but I think that's kind of the issue too. Is like kind of going back to what you said about Kendrick Lamar. Like it's a good album. It's not great. Right. It's not anything. It's not Reasonable Doubt. It's not anything like groundbreaking, and some of the stuff doesn't quite hit, and a lot of it is very commercial pop oriented, right? Like you like those Empire State of Mind, Run This Town, like all those things were just like huge hits, and they were designed to be huge hits. So as like a hip hop purist, like like fuck it. But from another point of view, it's kind of fun. I love Run This Town. Anyway, Anthony.
I mean, like
Anthony.
Similar experience as far as like. For me, when it came out, we were in high school, and that was like kind of our first experiences with having sound systems in our cars too. So like I remember listening to at least tracks of this album. I never listened to the whole thing, but definitely, I mean, the bangers on it still resonate, I think. But I remember liking it, and then I hadn't touched it in probably 15 years, honestly. So I was interested to see again my reaction to this album, and I don't know. I'm kind of right down the middle. I think there are a lot of good tracks on this album, obviously. And then there are some tracks that I'm like, Jay-Z, what were you talking about when you wanted to put that on that first track, So we'll go deeper into it. I had a fine time with it. I mean, it wasn't anything that I was like, struggling to get through. But it's interesting to see how things age over time. And I think how our ears age over time, too. Because I remember when I used to listen to rap a lot, my brain was so dialed in on vocals, and now after so much time has passed, I'm picking out production, I'm picking out live instrumentation, and there are some songs on here that I think the lyrics stand out way more than the production, but definitely makes for an interesting listening, having not touched it in a long time. So interesting. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think one of the biggest issues was the production on this is so 2008 and so different than Blueprint 1 and 2. Like it doesn't even feel, I think that's the biggest criticism, is it doesn't feel like a Blueprint album because it's so different production wise from the other Blueprints. And I definitely understand that criticism, because like Trey said, it's very like early 2000s with a lot of the production, some of these poppy songs that are not good in my opinion, but like as a whole, I think he just sonically wanted to push into a different direction. And that was really his main goal with this, which I think he achieved. Now, whether or not you like it, that's up for people to decide. But I think it's super interesting. But let's get into top tracks. Trey, you can lead us off.
Yeah, let's go with, for me, I'm just going to start from the beginning of the album, because I'll be honest, I don't have my notes in front of me because they're on my computer, which is across the room, and I don't want to link up to the Wi-Fi.
Go get it. I'll go.
No, I'm going to link up to the Wi-Fi. It's the whole thing. So Thank You. I fucking love this song. This is like kind of what I'm talking about when it comes to like the boom bap shit. Hold on one second. I'm having to pull up the lyrics really quick, but it's just like that hook, like the thank you. Like that's just,
you're far too kind.
That is quintessential Jay-Z. It's like, it sounds like a classic Jay-Z track. That's one. A couple of my other ones are you know what? The Real As It Gets, the Jeezy verse is sick, and the bass
interesting
is throttled. I've grown to like Jeezy, young Jeezy as we used to know him. He's now gotten older.
He was known on this album as Young Jeezy.
Yes, he was on this album as Young Jeezy. Now just Jeezy,
not so young, just Jeezy.
Not young. And then kind of one of the first big breaks for Kid Cudi, I feel like, was Already Home. And I love Cudi's like little sing song sample type thing that he's got going on in there, and like the way that his vocals, like you hear what comes from Cudi later in that, whereas like he's kind of like riding the beat, So did this come out before Man on the Moon 1?
This was 2008, so Man on the Moon 1, I believe, was after this, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, this is when Cudi was still kind of like a full-on Kanye protege, keeping it in the family with, like, Jay-Z, Cudi, and Kanye. Sick. Also, honorable mention is obviously fucking Kanye's verse in Run This Town. I mean, what you think I'll rap for to push a fucking RAV4 goes through my head every single time I see a RAV4. And here's the thing. Kanye,
it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's like $40,000 vehicles. They're not. It's not some bullshit. Like, this is a nice fucking car.
Not enough for Kanye.
Not for him. I'm just saying, like, listen, maybe, sorry Toyota. But yeah, those are my top mentions.
Nice. Anthony, what do you got?
All right, so what I have, my number 3 top track is the last track on the album, "Young Forever." I think it's like the perfect way to implement a sample into a track. I mean, the sample carries that song, but I think it's beautiful, and the way that it blends with Jay-Z is very complimentary and pleasant way to end this album for me, for sure. Number 2 is an interesting track, "Venus versus Mars." I never heard that I know of. I've never heard this track before I listened to this album most recently. But I love the idea of how Jay-Z is pairing lyrics and going this back and forth kind of action. There's a line in there that says something like, "She listened to Hit 'Em Up and I sing Who Shot Ya?" And it's just Tupac and Biggie without putting it out there, and there's endless references throughout that song. But again, I like the back and forth, and I like the production behind that track. It's very simple. For me, Jay-Z shines, in my mind, mostly when everything is bare bones and it's just kind of him. Like, I imagine Jay-Z in a jazz club with literally just a drummer and him with a microphone. Would we ever see that? Absolutely not. But that idea for me is how I would want to take in Jay-Z as kind of a spoken word kind of rapper, because the way his voice sounds, I love the way his voice sounds. I don't love everything he says, but he has such a unique voice that I think it would be such an interesting experience to have in that kind of setting.
Well, he does have an unplugged. He has an unplugged album.
True.
So it's kind of that same vibe.
I need to check that out. So I'm glad you brought that up. And then my number 1 track is pretty stereotypical, but "Run This Town." He mentioned Kanye's verse in that song. I mean, I'm assuming Kanye produced that track. It sounds like Kanye produced it.
I can check it.
But Rihanna's vocals on that song are super powerful. And let's see. So "Run This Town," Carter West. Yeah, so they probably collaborated on that. But
nice.
The way Rihanna's vocals, I mean, super powerful. Yeah, and I think that song has a very heavy, stomp to it. So big fan of that song. So that's my number 1. I mean, honorable mentions are all the, stereotypical DOA, Empire State of Mind, on to the next one. But I didn't want to include those. I wanted to go a little different with my top tracks. But "Run This Town," still a banger.
Always, dude. And she played it at the Super Bowl too when she performed, which I thought was super sick of her to do. And that Super Bowl show, man, that shit was a banger. All right, so for me,
this year's Super Bowl, Kendrick Lamar's playing it.
Okay. Well, yeah, obviously, if Kendrick Lamar's playing, it's going to be the greatest Super Bowl halftime show of all time, bro. Obviously, I mean, nothing's ever going to top that. It's Kendrick Lamar. Okay, so
much anger inside such a small man.
For my top tracks, number 3, I had "Reminder." Now, this beat is weird to me. It's super weird, and it takes a little bit to get past that. But there's a particular moment I really like in it when he's listing all the years that he's gone number 1. And he says 02, 03, 04, 05, 06, and 7, 08, 09, back-to-back, double plat, I did what you want, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Just so fucking good. And he's right, man. Like, there is a time, this was his 11th number 1 album. Like, he was just on a fucking tear, dude. And it was just back-to-back, just dropping number 1 albums. So I just think that's such a great flex. And then number 2 for me is on to the next one. This production is fucking sick, man. And I don't know if you guys know this, but this is actually a sample from a Justice song. So that's where that's where on to the next one comes from. And I know Anthony's not a big Justice guy, but I'll link you guys that track that it comes from. But yeah, I think Swizz Beatz like fucking just snaps on this production, and I think it's just really, really interesting. And then of course, the very beginning, Hove on that new shit. People like, how come people want my old shit? Buy my old albums. It's so fucking good. And that's like, this is the perfect album to say that in, because it's such a departure, like we were talking about, from what he is known for. So I think it's just like a fuck you, this is me now, you know, deal with it or move on. And then number one for me, always, dude, DOA, Death of Autotune. Such a classic song. And like, I can't even pick out one line from the song just because I love the chorus. I love this production. I love the way he raps over this beat. Super, super interesting. Obviously, the end that we've talked about before, but the I might send this to the mixtape Wheezy is so good. And yeah, I think like what's really interesting is like, thank you down to Empire State of Mind. It's like, thank you, DOA, Run This Down, Empire State of Mind. It's just like such a crazy fucking run for this album. And I don't know. I just really like the beginning apart from the opening track on the album.
Wait, and then did we have all different top threes?
I believe we did.
That's usually a really good sign.
Yeah, I was very shocked at y'all's top threes, to be honest.
Well, and then I want to mention on the DOA, you know, the way I always bring this up. I feel like when a rapper raps towards the sample, you know, where he's like, you know, this is Death of Autotune, moment of silence, and then, you know, I mean, like,
yeah,
that would be a super cool song to see performed live, you know, with horns and jazz. I mean, it's a really high energy track, you know.
Yeah. And then some honorable mentions, obviously, like Run This Town, Empire State of Mind, Young Forever. Like, there's just a lot of really good songs on this album that I think like have just gone under the radar and people have kind of forgotten about, right? But you go back and listen, you're like, oh yeah, this is good, and this is good, and this is good, and like, I don't know, there's just a lot of good on this album that I think it's worth people revisiting, you know. So I'm glad we did it. But let's get into the negatives, because there are definitely some negatives. There's some songs that do not fucking hit on this album. I'll tell you that much. So Trey, what do you got?
Yeah, I got my first negative is So Ambitious with Pharrell. It just like, while that pairing should be really fucking good, it's not. It doesn't work. Jay-Z's like, it's like he forgot how to rap for those 3.5 minutes. Like his verses are just like very chopped, and that's how he's rapping. He's telling you what he's saying. Like, you know what I mean? It's just not good. Unfortunately, I got Empire State of Mind on my dies.
That's fair.
And it's just because I've heard it a billion fucking times. Yeah, you know, it's one of those. It's not necessarily bad, but like, if in New York. Also, New York kind of sucks, so like, there's nothing really to be that proud of.
I disagree, but I will tell you, go to New York, go to Times Square. That song is just, you can't get away from it.
I would never go to Times Square. So anyway, and then Hate. One of the very few times that a Kanye Jay-Z collab sucks. Frankly, it's just, that song is fucking bad.
It's very weird.
It's very not good. It's like, once again, they both just were like, oh wait, how do you make music again? And we'll just put this out. So those are my three. They're all pretty not great.
Well, like, I wonder on that thought too, because you know, Blake, you mentioned about how this blueprint doesn't feel like a blueprint, and I'm totally in agreement with that. Do you think this was kind of like a chunk and change? Let's just collaborate and put it out as a blueprint, or like, do you think there was, because it doesn't flow, like there's no cohesiveness throughout this album, I don't think.
I don't know. I think like maybe he set out to make a Blueprint 3. Like, I think that was definitely his goal from the beginning. And he just took it in a direction that was weird for the Blueprint, but it made sense for the time, right? It made sense for 2000. It came out in 2009, not 2008, but it made sense for that time. So I think it's really just a time adapted blueprint. So I think like it was intentional, you know, whether it lands or flows cohesively is a different story, but I think it was intentional.
It definitely doesn't flow like track to track, is what you mean, right? When you say cohesively, like the first, like through the run that you talked about, like Thank You through, what was the last one, Run This Town?
Empire State of Mind.
Empire State of Mind. Like that sounds like it works together. And then everything else, it's like they just threw tracks on an album. Like they weren't trying to make it kind of work as a project.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah. Anthony, what do you got?
So my bottom tracks, I will start with, A Star Is Born. Here's my thing about A Star Is Born. I love the lyrics throughout this song. I mean, I love the references, and I love the way he's kind of talking about people's, start in hip hop and what they've been able to accomplish, tons of references throughout that. So I love that. Do not like just the hook of this song, and some of the production behind it too. J. Cole to me is somebody like, let me ask both of you guys this, like, where is this? So 2009, what is J. Cole doing in 2009?
Like just getting started.
Just like the very beginning?
Yeah.
The very beginning.
After he got signed to Jay-Z's label.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Because I feel and there's a couple, even Cudi on this, it feels like there's underutilized features on this. And the big one that's missing, who's in Rikers Island at this point, is Wayne. And that would have been very interesting. And I feel like that's just me poking at something that doesn't exist. I just wish somebody could have sampled Wayne from jail in real time. I think that would have been such a cool thing to do. But anyway, like I said, just everything but the vocals on A Star Is Born for me doesn't work. The second one is Off That with Drake. It doesn't jive with my ears at all. And neither does the first track on this album. What we talking about? It just to me, it just seems like a song about nothing. If Seinfeld is a show about nothing, this is a song about nothing. That it just didn't fit. That we've talked in the past too about how opening tracks can make or break an album, and that opening track just really took me aback, and it made me second guess all my feelings for this album in the past. But it's just I got to get through that track to then start to roll into this album. So that's my.
It is kind of cool that he had Cudi, J. Cole, and Drake all on.
I was just about to say that actually.
Like that's
I mean, Jeezy and Pharrell too.
But they're pretty established at that point. Like Young Jeezy had definitely. Him and Akon.
He was still young at that point. He was still young,
technically speaking. Yeah, definitely.
But I think you're right, Trey. Like having because in 2009, Cudi, J. Cole, Drake, nobody knew what they would become. Right? It's easy to look back.
People 15 knew years, of them, but they weren't like, oh, these guys are hip hop gods.
Right, and it's funny to look back.
Still?
J. Cole's a hip hop god. Kid
absolutely.
Cudi's a hip hop god, and unfortunately, even though I hate him, Drake is a hip hop god.
Who's the hip hop devil? Because I want to let me hook up with that guy.
MGK. Lamar.
Drake, and the thing about Drake is whether you like him or not, nobody will ever be that famous again as a rapper. Sorry, it sucks. Yeah. It pains me, but that's just the reality of the situation.
Did you see that he's suing UMG?
UMG,
yeah.
I did see that.
He's suing UMG and Spotify for collaborating to make Not Like Us bigger than it was.
Yeah, he thinks they inflated it, basically.
Yeah. Oh, this is
what a bitch.
Drama. It's just drama.
What a bitch.
Here's the thing.
He called cops.
Here's the thing. I believe him. To be honest. I think the numbers are inflated. Because the song's just not good. So it doesn't make sense to me.
Really, because it's playing everywhere every time you ever walk down any given street.
Sounds like artificial inflation to me. Yeah. That's what it sounds like to me.
That works.
Okay, my bottom tracks, I'm pretty much in line with Anthony. I think like you said, man, just underutilized features. Already Home could have been so much better than it was. And granted, maybe Jay-Z was trying to find the right way to use Kid Cudi. I really like the production on this song, but just leaves something to be desired. And then A Star Is Born, the chorus is just, it's so corny. It's so corny, it's almost painful. It's like when Trey, whenever Trey used to sing You and Me by Bass Nectar, he would say, you and me against the world now. He would sing it like a cheerleader. That's how I feel about A Star Is Born.
That's how that song sounds, though. Right.
Yeah. It's just so bad. It's just a swing and a miss. And I feel bad for J. Cole. What if somebody had never heard J. Cole and they're like, man, let me give this guy a shot, right? They listen to this song and be like, fuck this guy.
That might have been me. I don't know if I remember that, but as soon as that song started, I got a visceral response of like, oh shit, I remembered this, and I remember not liking it. And if that was my only like experience with J. Cole, which it very well could have been, that's I mean, it makes sense as to why I didn't find out about 2014 Forest Hills till like last year, you know.
Yeah. That's fair. And then off that, like this song is all over the place, man. Like the production is whack as shit to me. Drake's feature on this is very strange. And it's weird because they have a collab in Drake's first album, and Trey might remember this song, but it's really, really good. Light Up. It's called Light Up. On Drake's very first album.
That song.
Yeah, that song is so good. And Jay-Z's verse on that song is crazy. Like he fucking snaps. And that was in 2010. So that just like off that feels like a missed opportunity knowing what came after the fact. And fun fact, speaking of Wayne in jail, Anthony, there is a version of Light Up that's not on the album where Wayne recorded a verse over the phone. And you can find it on YouTube. It's fucking sick. So yeah, those are my bottom tracks. Overall, just the features were a miss for me. And it sucks because like I love all those guys. Like, I mean, I don't love Drake, but I love Cudi and J. Cole. And like I just wish it could have been more. So yeah, that's what I had. But let's get into album ranking. So as I told you guys, no love lost from the major publications. So what do you guys think Pitchfork gave it out of 10?
Pitchfork gave it a 2.
I'll say 5.
4.5. 4.5. It says more Blueprint 2 than Blueprint. Jay-Z's latest is actually closer to Kingdom Come than either of those, unfortunately.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And then Rolling Stone out of 5. What do you guys think?
I'll say 2.
I'm going to go 2 again.
Yeah.
It was a 3. So they're a little more lukewarm. Yeah. Yeah. Not as bad. But what do you guys rate it? Trey?
I'm going to go much like our brothers over at Rolling Stone. I'm going to give it a 6. I think it's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, but that's about where it stops.
Right. It's not the best thing ever, you know?
No.
Yeah.
Anthony?
Right along those lines. I had 6 written down, and then I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. Yeah, and there's a nostalgia factor for me with this album. Like, when you picked it, Blake, I was, in my mind, like, oh, fuck yeah. Like, we're going back into old school Jay-Z, you know? And like I said, there were times where I was back in that lane, and then there were times where I was like, I remember why I didn't, buy this album or really go deeper into it. So yeah, 6.5 for me.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I'm around that. I'll give it a 7. I think there's a lot of really good songs that like I can still listen to and revisit and enjoy. But there's a lot of misses on it, and production wise, sometimes it feels a little all over the place. And I know like I did go on a rant earlier that I very much meant. But I will say in general, a friend and I had this conversation recently where we feel like whether it's the internet or music in general or just what has pushed people, but we feel like everybody has to be this is either the greatest thing ever or this sucks fucking ass. Like, especially if you're on the internet, nobody can find like a middle ground. Nobody can say like, oh, that was a good movie, right? Like, I enjoyed it. Like, it wasn't phenomenal. It has to be, oh, it's the greatest film I've ever watched in my life. Or it's like, oh, it was fucking ass, And I think I think us three do a good job of not doing that, but it's hard to have conversations with people when like that's immediately their mentality of like, oh, if this isn't the greatest thing ever, it's the worst thing ever.
Well, it's because the loudest and most like egregious voices are the ones that people want to argue against. Like, no one wants to argue against a guy who's like, oh, it's good. It's like, right. What are you gonna argue? Yeah, like, no, it's not.
It's better than good.
See, if someone says it's good, and then you have to argue against that, you either have to say it's great or it's terrible. Like, you can't just agree. And people like to argue.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. True. As long as they have points behind their, perception of whether they like it or not, that's a conversation. But if you have someone that just shits on it for no reason or like doesn't go see Joker in the theaters because they hear stories about it, what are you going to do with those people?
And then those people probably will never go see it, those certain people, wherever they may be,
Before we move into Rides or Dies, I just want to talk about how I feel like I'm looking at the face of God because I can see Anthony's actual notebook. It's like all open.
There is an actual
crazy, right?
Second notebook.
It's wild. He's just got like a little grid system. It's quite organized, but his handwriting is
horrible.
Atrocious.
Right. That's fair.
Nicely. I'm sorry.
I can't
it definitely is.
Okay, well, that was Blueprint 3. If you haven't revisited it in a while, go back, give it a listen. I promise, I think you'll enjoy it. And if you've listened for the first time, go in with an open mind. Don't expect it to be 1999 Jay-Z, because it's not, but it's still worth the listen. All right, well, let's get into Rise or Dies. Anthony, you lead us off.
All right, so my Rise or Die, it's by this collaboration project called Headache. The two artists involved, one goes by the name of Vegan. He's the producer behind it. It's Vegyn. And then the voice that you're hearing on this track is by this guy named Francis Hornsby Clark. Christian actually posted a track by Vegan on his Instagram, and it was like very ethereal, down tempo. And I was like, this is my music, so let me dig deeper. And then I found this little project that came out. I think the album came out last year. But it felt so perfect to bring to the podcast because last week's Ride or Die was the guy sleep talking. And this one is another guy talking, but it's way more digestible. It's still interesting because of the words this guy's saying. But and I immediately bought the album on vinyl, so it'll be here soon. I haven't listened to the whole thing, but it's just very interesting music. So I had to bring it to you guys just to kind of keep the narrative going of these spoken word, fucking weird headspace music. So what'd y'all think? Charlie, what'd you think?
I liked it a lot. I listened to it while I was on the beach at approximately 11 p.m. after King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard with my friend Casey. Well, we weren't coming down. But and I had Wafer on the beach just just ripping it, solo beach. So I just left his leash on and just let him. But yeah, the song's really, really good. I would like to kind of go back through, read the lyrics a little bit more. But the beat reminds me of, there's this song, and I can't remember it, but it's from a Danny Harf wakeboarding documentary, but that's not how you know
shit.
it. Okay. I think it's called Falling, maybe. I don't know. Let me see if I can find it. But the beat reminds me of that, too. So, yeah, I like it a lot. It gets a hard rides for me.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. I will say much more digestible than the one last week.
Yes.
And still equally weird, still equally up Anthony's alley. But very cool, man. And honestly, I get kind of vibes with the movie we're going to discuss here in a little bit. I think they're kind of on the same wavelength to me, mentally and emotionally. So yeah, Rise for me for sure.
Beautiful.
Trey,
why don't you go with yours and then we'll go with Trey's.
Okay, so I chose It's Good off the Carter 4, which is a Wayne, Jadakiss, and Drake song. And I don't know what Jadakiss is doing with his life. I don't know what he was doing before this or what he's doing after. I'm curious, too, because I really like his verse in this song. But the reason I picked this, so this song is, the Carter 3 came out right after Wayne got out of jail, or very shortly after Wayne got out of jail. And there's the end of Drake's verses. And then November came, they let my brother out. And then Wayne comes in and starts going off. But I picked it because one, I think the Carter 4 is so underappreciated in the Carter talks as a whole. But this song, look, man, there's not many times you're going to hear me say this, but Drake is rapping his fucking ass off in this song. All three of them are. They all snapped on this song. So it's just it came up on a hip hop curated playlist that Spotify made for me, and I had forgot about it. I was listening to it. It was just getting me hype as fuck. So I just wanted to send it off to you guys. But what did you guys think?
Go first.
So definitely Rides. I mean, I like the Carter 4, but I also think it's the fourth best Carter, just in my opinion. But still a banger of an album. The way this song is structured is ideal Wayne, Throw a feature out there early. It's really aggressive. At first I was like, is this Tyler the Creator? And then I obviously saw the liner notes, But I wrote, Jadakiss's verse was a little brash for me. Drake's verse was okay, but obviously Wayne takes it home. So banger of a song. Yeah. It definitely rides for me.
Agree with the Carter 4 being underrated. I'd never go back and listen to that album, and it's really good. Jadakiss is his snarly, just that man's never had a happy day in his life.
Yeah, I know.
He's like RDMX. It's like RDMX.
50 Cent put him under the ground. That's why he's mad. He's still pissed about that. And then you're even Drake has a line. He's like, "I'm faded. Fucking faded. Oh yeah, I'm faded."
Yeah,
even though that's dumb, it just sounds so cool. It flows. I really like this Drake verse as well. He does rapping his ass off. And then obviously Wayne comes in. But this is when I was talking earlier about the new Kendrick album and the production. I was just listening to this on the way over here, and like same thing. My speakers are just like, that song's loud, and like the bass is boosted. It is really fucking cool.
I'm sure your speakers aren't broken.
Well, no, my speakers are Bose, and they would never break.
True, Bose would not break.
True.
Well, that like the thing is, the whole Carter 4 is like that. Like I had that was back when I had a 12-inch sub in my Jeep, but like there's so many songs that are like that. I want to get another one. I want to get another one. But you give it a rides?
Yeah, I give it a rides.
Fuck yeah. All right, well, Trey, listen, you can intro your song, but I just want to say I don't like when you do rides or dies like this where I have to go search through like a 2-hour thing to find it. And I know you send the timestamps, but it still kind of feels like cheating to me in a way because it's not really a song, but it is a song. But go ahead and intro for us.
Okay, so first off, that's fair, honestly, the research part. I get that. I really do. It's not fun for me either, but, you know, this man doesn't record any music, so it's how we have to live our lives. So this was on Sunday night, just 2 days ago, up or down in St. Augustine, Florida. First off, hey, it's just me now. First off, absolutely beautiful run. Probably one of my favorite Pretty Lights runs of all time. There's just something special about being able to go out on the beach after you've seen a night of music. Like, it's really cool. We like went out and watched like the moon rise at like 1 a.m. and we watched the sunrise a few hours later. But yeah, so the song that I picked, you know, as PL likes to do, he will find songs that are either like by someone from the location, about the location, or whatever. And for this one, this was like a water theme type of deal. So he used Pirate Looks at 40 from Jimmy Buffett, which is one of my favorite songs. Like, the songwriting is amazing. Jimmy Buffett was a phenomenal songwriter. You're good. I'm going to help her. Help my lady. Okay. Sorry. But yeah, so Jimmy Buffett's a phenomenal songwriter. And then he mixed that with, you know, his own beat, and then Ripple by the Grateful Dead, which obviously there's a water theme there. And then, shockingly, I absolutely love this part. It's a Taylor Swift song called Florida. And it's just like her like hook, and it's like Florida, it's one hell of a drug, and like the way he like mixed it in, he like kind of made it like the chorus of the song. And then he rapped, which I'm sure you got to that part, and I'm sure we're gonna hear about that. But honestly, I thought he had bars on this. I thought he flowed through it pretty well. He only messed up like once or twice, and he called us superhuman light computers again. I agree. I am a superhuman light computer.
That's good.
And yeah, that's fucking good. Pretty Lights is just still just getting better and better every day. So Blake, before Anthony agrees with me, I would like to hear how you felt.
I thought it was a super fucking cool mashup. I thought it was really, really innovative. Obviously, you know, I mean, they're innovators, right? The whole group, Derek is an innovator. You know, that's really one word to describe him. And so I think it's cool when he does this, you know, picks a certain theme and kind of runs with it depending on location or whatever it may be. So I thought it was cool. I think that they need to not put a microphone anywhere near him ever. And I don't think that opinion will ever change for me. Because look, man, Derek's great at a lot of things. Singing, rapping, not really. So I would just prefer, you know, do what you do, Derek, do what you do best. But look, I can't hate a man following his dreams. You know, it's like when J. Cole played basketball in Canada for like 2 weeks, you know, like, was he a good basketball player? No, but that was his dream. Is Derek a good rapper? No, but he clearly wants to be. So like, I let him do his thing. You know, I will give it a rides. I will give it a rides altogether.
His birthday was yesterday, so thank you for the rides. But sometimes, like at the end, I've just noticed it happens on the third night. It's like he has to get all of this stuff out of him, like as far as like his messages and what he's trying to push out, and so he's like, fuck, like, I feel like I haven't gotten it all out. Now I got to pick up the mic and just straight up say that they're superhuman light computers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, this is what I think. It obviously rides. You know, I kept up with all the shows, you know, on tour and last year, and it's just like the band keeps elevating every set or every experience that they get to curate. But like Derek, to me, I'm looking at pain. You see the pain?
Oh yeah.
That he is a big kid on stage, you know, but when they hit those moments, whether it's the times where he does speak on microphone or just when the band is experiencing each other, it's so stream of consciousness. And I think that is, you know, that's the essence of, you know, freestyling, is that it is just coming off of his head. And you can tell it's coming off his head because it's not perfect, you know, it's not rehearsed. But for me, these swirls are so just ingenious in my mind. Like if you told someone, all right, we're going to mash up Jimmy Buffett and the Grateful Dead and Taylor Swift in a live setting in real time,
tell them you're high on crack, like
exactly. But to create it in that moment, he said he made that song the night before.
They said they made it at 5 a.m. Yeah, he said that in his verse, by the way.
Yeah, so I mean, this is like it's like
which means they were up late.
Yeah, I mean, like if they ever slept, right? But the idea of being able to execute it live is so risky. But that's the nature, I think, of these shows, is that they're just going with the flow. And yeah, there's going to be times that may not work, but that's the beauty of live music, is that you can come out of that hole, right? You have to work yourself out of that hole, but that's when the band takes over. And I think it's super cool to do. And yeah, that the Florida is a hell of a drug. That's the line Taylor Swift loops in.
It sounds really good, dude. It's like steely and like, I don't know, man.
He also, Derek also did this interesting thing. I believe it was Sunday night, where he had his mic going through a filter where it sounded like he was throat singing.
Yeah. Yeah, when he goes, bow, wow, wow, yippee, yo, yippee, yay, bow, wow, yippee, yo, yippee, yay. And it like sounded just like it.
Yeah.
Like it sounded like a sample, and it was just him just up there vibing.
Mm-hmm. So I think that, these shows, I mentioned it before, it's like, if you're not tuning in, have you watched any of the other sets on tour, Blake?
No, I haven't watched any full sets. I mean, just whatever Trey sends most of the time.
Next time you're in World of Warcraft, turn the set on.
Throw it on. Yeah, it's actually not a bad idea.
Because like it is so, what these pretty light shows have become are the same thing that I think y'all ever watch Kill Tony? Do you watch Kill Tony?
I don't like Kill Tony.
No,
I don't like Kill Tony either, but I have watched it.
Sorry.
All right, so next topic.
I think it's mean.
I know y'all don't.
I think it's just mean.
It's comedy. It's comedy.
No, they're just dicks.
It's comedy. But the idea of these types of shows, Bass Nectar did the exact same thing, is it becomes like a wrestling event. I don't know if y'all watch wrestling. I used to watch it a lot when I was younger. But the idea of anything can happen in these shows, and there are moments that happen that everyone collectively goes, holy shit, together, right? It happens when Grateful Dead Ripple starts playing. It happens when, Phil comes on stage playing guitar.
I got a funny story to tell you about that.
So like, so these moments that happen collectively, whether you're in person or freaking, hundreds of miles, thousands of miles away, it still resonates. And that's what I think these shows are so special. So like, Blake, if you haven't like seen set list or things like that, don't do it before you watch these sets or even play the sets. Cause like, let the discovery happen organically, and I think it just elevates the experience so much.
Yeah, I will listen to it. I think like one thing that really ruined Derek on the mic for me is one time Trey, that I've never been able to come back from this, is Trey sent us a song one time. I don't remember what it was, but one of Derek's lines was, "I try every day to manifest the impossible." And I just turned that shit off and just like, it ruined my whole
creative.
It ruined my whole day. I was like, all right, it's like, I can't do this.
What about this bar? He had one this weekend. He said the music coming out the speakers like a heat seeker. It's kind of bar.
That is kind of a bar. That is kind of a bar. Yeah. I'll give him that. I'll give him that. All right, that was Rides or Dies. Anthony, intro this film for us, if you can even call it a film.
Before Anthony does that, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to sit out this conversation because I was unable to watch the assigned film.
No!
I was doing something every night since we recorded on Wednesday, like every single night, including last night. I didn't get home till 3 a.m.
Well, this is gonna.
So it's going to be interesting because, like Blake said, you can't, it's hard to call this a film. It's a one-man show. Just because you're out of the conversation, don't mean.
I'm not on Instagram. I was looking up Spotify stuff.
I'm just like, because that's like the way this movie starts is there's a title card that says, for the next however long, like turn your phones off, like eliminate distractions so you can focus on the show itself. So it's a one-man show, half magic, close-up magic, half kind of spoken word storytelling kind of vibe. But for me, the first time I watched this was when it came out, and no one I knew talked about it anywhere. And it really left an impact on me because it's really thought-provoking. It has a lot to do with like how you perceive your own identity, how you might perceive other people's identity. Very visceral, very emotional, and I believe it was performed, I think, like 500 and it says 552 days or times this show was performed, because there's a cyclical nature to the show itself. That's really interesting. It's in New York City. But yeah, like I said, the first time it really left an imprint on me. And then the second go around, it was different because I knew kind of what to expect, at least a little bit, but still very visceral in itself. So fun experience. How'd you feel?
Yeah, first off, I had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was about to watch. And I gotta tell you, man, I was fucking blown away. I thought it was so phenomenal.
It's one of the. I want to not listen to this, honestly, because I really want to.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah,
no. I would tell him to take it.
I want to know about it. Like, I was really excited to watch it. Yeah, I'm gonna take a walk.
But also, I'll say, like, this honestly.
I'll just keep yell at me.
Okay.
This was one of, also, I can hear myself through your headphones, Anthony. You might need to like lean back a little bit. I will say this was like one of the most phenomenal things like I think I've ever watched. Like, it was so fucking good, and so just I think like one of the best parts about it is when he says, and I think it's towards the end where he says like, who you are is, it's part a perception of how people see you, but also if you think the same way, right? That's kind of the through line to me, is if, I view myself as a leader and other people view me as a leader, I'm a leader, right? If I view myself as a leader and nobody else does, you're not a leader, right? And it's a lot deeper than that, but that's like the crux of figuring out who you are. And I don't know, it was just so thought-provoking and so emotional, and I didn't know like what the fuck I was getting into, because it starts off and it's like, the story, it immediately hooks you in. Like, the story that he tells at the beginning immediately like draws you in. And then there's like aspects of magic where I was like, I didn't think that was good. I thought it was just going to be acting. Like, I had no idea what I was getting into. And like, but I didn't view it as like a magician's show, right? That's not what it felt like to me. It felt like a play, like a one-man play with those aspects sprinkled into it. But like, oh man, it was so cool. It's so heartbreaking at points. Yeah. Like, I got really emotional in the end when people are reading the letters. And like that kind of, there's a lot of oh shit moments of like, how the fuck is he doing this? But I think like that, the one thing I will say, the one thing I didn't like is I didn't like that there were moments where he was talking over, like it wasn't just play audio. It was him providing like a commentary. Right. You know what I'm talking about? There's different people, which like, I get why he did it, but part of me wishes I could have just like seen it and been in silence in certain moments and like just seen it live.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, but I think like also, did you see Bill Gates? Did you notice Bill Gates at the end?
Yeah,
that's fucking crazy.
I think there was a few notable faces in the crowds, kind of peppered throughout the production. But that's the thing. It's like, how do you take that live experience? Because like, it is one thing to see it how we saw it, but it's another thing to have been there or been, Mr. Tomorrow or Mr. Yesterday. Or
right.
Whatever. It's like to have been participating in that thing, because that itself is a wild experience. But how do you translate that on a screen, right? And I think Frank Oz, who's actually the voice of Yoda and Miss Piggy.
I'll be back in?
Not yet. Yes. You're banned. But he is a big, partner with Jim Henson growing up or doing all that stuff. He directed this and put it together. So he kind of had those, angles and those ways to kind of translate that show, but also show how long it had been happening, to have all the different reveals, kind of in sequence was interesting. But so glad to hear that response, because literally I've been waiting, 2020, so 4 years to talk about this film with somebody, and to have it resonate the way to you that it did with me, it just speaks for it. It's just such a powerful thing. And I think that is the best way to try to turn people on to this film, is literally just say, just watch it, just do it.
Well, I texted,
you don't need anything.
I texted a friend of mine who like, he's a big music guy, big movie guy. We always talk about movies. I texted him immediately after finishing. I was like, I don't know what you're doing today, but you need to stop what you're doing and you need to watch this like right now. He's like, Warren, I'm on it. Like, as soon as I get back from the gym, I'll do it. So I'm interested to hear what he says. But like, I was very apprehensive going into it, because I was like, a one-man show, man. I don't know if I'm going to be able to sit through this. But like, it kept like it kept sucking you in different ways, and the stories were like, and I think like there's no big reveal at the end. I think like it all comes together with what he says at the end. But it was so interesting to see how people thought it was going to end, and the premise of making somebody leave and write, and like some of the stuff in that book, like the drawings, the pictures, the writing, it was so cool, and like it was just such an interesting concept. And I'm like excited to watch it again, and I'm excited to engage with it again now that I kind of know what it's about. But like it's just such an interesting perspective of like, who are we? You know, that's a question that everybody asks, like, who am I as a person? And having people select who they think they are when they come in, you know, I am this, I am that, I am a blank, you know, whatever it is, was just very, very cool. So just awesome pick. And I 5-starred it immediately on Letterboxd. Like it's definitely one of the best things that I've watched in a long.
Fuck yeah. All right. On that note, I'll bring Trey back in.
Go grab him real quick.
All right, Trey.
So if you have, for the listeners, if you haven't watched In and of Itself, please go watch it immediately because it's mind blowing. We did kind of spoil it for you a little bit, but I would go listen to it or go watch it as soon as you can. It's on Hulu. For those that are wondering where you can find it on Hulu. In and of Itself. So go watch that. If we didn't just spoil the whole thing for you. And Trey, I'm interested to hear your thoughts once you finally.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next time we record. I'll have an update because I watch it.
Gotcha.
Cool. Okay, so next week we're gonna do a duo episode with Anthony and I. Anthony, you pick the album. I'll pick the movie. It's not going to be the movie I originally picked for the other episode. I'm giving you a different one.
Okay. Well, I was going to do hip hop, but now I'm not gonna. So let's do the Alice in Chains Jar of Flies. I think that's. Okay. I mean, it's a solid listen, solid album, and it'll be a good one. So Jar of Flies.
Cool. And then the movie is the 2022 Scream. So not the most recent one. This is technically Scream 5, but it's just titled Scream. It's on Netflix. It came out in 2022, and I'll explain why I picked. You'll have to watch and see. There's a very specific reason why they did it, which I'll talk about next week. So even if you're not in the episode, Trey, you should watch it, and then it'll all make sense.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. This has been great.
Yeah, it was good job pulling off the live production. One day we will have all three of us in the same room. I don't know how we'll make it work, but we will make it work, and it'll be a blast.
Absolutely.
But yeah, everybody, thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for joining. Anthony, I will see you next week. Trey, we will see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Peace.
Bye.